Here's something most people don't realize about themselves. When a device stops working, the decision to replace it usually happens in the first 30 seconds, not after careful consideration, not after researching options. The decision is made almost instantly, often before you've even fully understood what went wrong. And once that decision is made, everything else is just justification. But why does this happen? Why do we default to replacement so quickly, even when repair might be simpler, cheaper, and more practical? The answer has less to do with the device and more to do with how we think about failure. Let me give you an example from my own life. I had a cordless vacuum that I'd used for about 2 years. One day, it just stopped holding a charge. I'd plug it in, the light would turn on, but within seconds of unplugging it, the vacuum would die. My immediate reaction? It's done. Time for a new one. I didn't think about testing it. I didn't consider that the battery might be separate from the vacuum itself. I just mentally categorized it as broken and moved on. Then something made me pause. I remembered all the devices I'd seen at the recycling facility perfectly, functional machines discarded for the same reason. And I realized I was doing exactly what I'd watched thousands of other people do. So I stopped. I opened the battery compartment. I tested the cells. 2 were fine. 1 had completely failed. I replaced that single cell. The vacuum worked perfectly. Total cost, $8. Total time, about 20 minutes, but here's what stuck with me. If I hadn't paused, I would have spent over $200 on a new vacuum without ever knowing the old one could be saved, and I would have felt justified doing it. Because in my mind, the vacuum had failed. It was broken. Replacement was the logical response. This is where most people get stuck, because we don't see replacement as a choice. We see it as a consequence. The device broke, therefore we have to replace it. It feels inevitable, but that inevitability is an illusion. What's actually happening is a cognitive shortcut. Our brains are wired to avoid uncertainty and effort. When something stops working, investigating why it stopped requires mental energy. It means dealing with ambiguity, possibly making mistakes, potentially wasting time. Replacement, on the other hand, feels clean, simple. Certain. You go to a store or order online. You get a new device. Problem solved. Except the problem isn't solved. It's just been postponed. Because if you don't know why the device failed, you can't prevent the next one from failing the same way. You can't make informed decisions about what's worth keeping versus what genuinely needs replacement. You're just cycling through devices, hoping each one lasts a little longer than the last. And that cycle has costs most people never calculate. Let's say you replace a cordless vacuum every 3 years at $200. Over 20 years, that's over $1,300 on vacuums alone. Add in other devices, laptops, phones, power tools, backup batteries, and you're easily spending thousands on replacements that might not have been necessary, but the financial cost is only part of it. There's also an emotional cost. Every time you throw something away and buy new, you reinforce a belief about yourself. I'm not the kind of person who fixes things. And that belief becomes self-fulfilling. You stop even considering repair as an option. You stop learning basic diagnostic skills. You become more dependent on a cycle that benefits manufacturers far more than it benefits you. Now, most people justify this in one of 2 ways. The first justification is time. I'm too busy to deal with this. It's easier to just buy a new one. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Time is valuable. Why spend an hour diagnosing a problem when you could solve it in 10 minutes by ordering a replacement? But here's what that logic misses. You're not saving time. You're deferring it, because the next time something breaks, you'll be in the exact same position. No knowledge gained. No skills developed. Just another cycle of failure and replacement. Whereas if you spend that hour once learning how to diagnose a battery issue, you now have a skill that applies to dozens of devices over the rest of your life. The second justification is cost. Repair shops are expensive. By the time I pay someone to fix it, I might as well buy new. And again, that can be true. Professional repairs often aren't cost-effective for consumer electronics, but that's not the only option. Most battery issues don't require professional repair. They require basic testing, simple tools you already own, and the willingness to follow straightforward steps. The barrier isn't capability. It's the belief that you're not capable. Let me tell you about someone I met through a community forum. She had a laptop that wouldn't charge. The battery was completely dead. She'd been quoted $120 for a replacement battery plus labor. She was about to pay it when someone in the forum suggested she test whether the battery was actually the issue or whether it was the charging circuit. She tested it. The laptop worked fine on direct power. The battery was definitely the problem, but then she did something most people don't do. She researched whether the battery could be restored. Before buying a new one, she found a method. She tried it. It worked. Her laptop's battery went from zero capacity to about 80% of its original performance. Not perfect, but functional. And she didn't spend $1, but here's what she told me later. The hardest part wasn't the actual process. It was convincing myself to try, because she'd been conditioned to believe that batteries were beyond her understanding, that this was something professionals handled, that attempting it herself was risky or complicated. None of that was true. But the belief was powerful enough to almost stop her from trying, and that's the real barrier for most people. It's not knowledge. It's not tools. It's the deeply ingrained assumption that repair is for other people who are more technical, more skilled, more knowledgeable. But every single person who knows how to fix things started from not knowing. They didn't have a special gift. They just tried something once, saw that it worked, and kept going. You can do the same thing. The next time a device stops working, pause before you replace it. Ask yourself, do I actually know what's wrong, or am I just assuming? Test the battery. Swap the power source. See if the device works under different conditions. You might find that it's genuinely broken. And if that's the case, replacement makes sense. But you might also find that the fix is simpler than you thought, that the device still has years of life left, that you're more capable than you believed, and that realization, quiet, personal, undramatic, changes everything.